One thing from the interview, and I actually sat and watched the entire interview, like in the evening. I just sat and watched it and actually really enjoyed it because I wasn't in it, and which for me is always a massive put off is me being in it. One thing I wanted to pick up was when you were talking about the Harris boys near the end, and you said that somebody else apart from, what was it, Ron had Shawn, Don was watching the door, but I can't remember if it was you or Tom said somebody else was watching the door as well.
Yeah, Undertaker. Okay, Undertaker, I think he was in a different clique than Shawn and didn't much like him anyway. And I think Undertaker kind of urged the Harris boys on a little bit. Because what I think was happening, I think Shawn, and I'm not a first-hand witness to this, but he would get around Vince or get around some of the people in the office like Pat Patterson. He would badmouth the Harris boys, like as if to say, no, don't put me with them, blah, 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 and they'll kill me off, and this, that. And eventually news of that leaked out to Ron and Don. And they didn't like it. They didn't like Shawn much anyway.
Ooh, didn't he talk about some of this? Did a reaction video, this year or last year. He talked about, he heard that they had, said that they had tuned Michaels up and said the next time it's going to get a lot worse. He said that. Well, it was funny. It ain't funny. It ain't funny, but it is funny. He was talking dirt about somebody. And they said those Harris brothers were, I remember when they were Jacob and Eli. They said, if that's what I'm thinking of, he's talking about those guys were mean.
And you've heard that. A lot of people didn't like Shawn. Because Shawn was
they didn't play
egotistical to the nth degree. Nobody was as good as he was. And that was,
Michaels.
You know, if you think forward a little bit, that was the problem with him and Brett. Both of them thought that the company could not operate without them. But anyway, when the Harris boys heard that he was bad-mouthing them to Vince, they said, hell with this. And that was the time that the company was down anyway, and we didn't have those big contracts. Undertaker didn't have those big contracts. He was making what the house shows drew. That's how he was being paid. If he worked 3 times that week, he got paid for 3 times. I mean, he didn't get on a contract, say it's $1 million contract. Well, if you break that down, how much is that a week? 20 grand? 20 grand a week?
What?
Well, he wouldn't make 20 grand. He may have made 3 grand.
Wow.
And that's a big difference.
Woo.
We didn't have those big contracts. And
getting shorted.
Shawn was getting all the main events, plus knocking all the other guys that he didn't want to work with. So that was almost a personal assault on their finances, and they got tired of it. But anyway, they jacked it up. I forgot we had some kind of meeting.
He talked about this before. Some of it.
And before all the guys got back in the dressing room, you know, Madison Square Garden is not as big in the back as you think it would be. I think they opened up some more dressing rooms later on, but some of those dressing rooms are very small for such a huge arena. But they caught Shawn in one, or they asked him to come in there, and they had 2 doors leading into the room. I think Don had one and Undertaker had the other. They were just standing there. And if anybody wanted to go in, they would just stop them and say, hey, there's something going on in there, so.
There's something going on in there.
Shawn right here and slammed him up against the lockers.
Yeah, he talked about some of this.
And he told him, he said, if I ever hear my name or my brother's name come out of your mouth again, it's going to be a lot worse than this.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. I remember that.
You know, he can't
said
talk.
that they jacked him up.
Somebody
him up.
goozled up against the locker. He goes, that's what he was saying. But and he was agreeing, and he finally let him go. And he said, okay, I'm not play, and he left.
Leave them Harris
Now,
brothers
the question
alone.
remains, did he badmouth them again? I don't think so. Because we never heard about it again.
That sure was it. I remember that because he said those guys are about 6'7" or 6'8" apiece. The twins. I remember when they had the big hair before they cut it off and went and cut it to a bald head. I remember that because they were in WCW first. Then they were WWF. I think they left and came back. Yeah, because he was managed by him. He was called Zebekiah back then. And he managed Bradshaw, too, when Bradshaw had the long hair. I remember all that. See, this was 96, 95, something like that, yeah. And they came back when they was the Bikers and the Attitude Era in the late 90s. But, yeah, that's exactly what he said. I remember that. He said the next time it's going to get a lot worse. Those guys don't mess around now. They don't.